Story number 1: Meter Reader. I first noticed him on a Tuesday morning in early November. I was working on a logo revision for a client when I saw the yellow vest through my office window. Utility worker? Checking the meter box on the side of the house. I didn't think much of it. The power company sends people out all the time. He was back the following week. Same vest, same truck parked in front. I watched him for maybe 30 seconds before returning to my design work. Training route, I thought. They must be training someone new on the neighborhood circuit. The third visit happened on a Friday. This time I actually looked at him more carefully. Same build, same deliberate movements. He was standing in front of our duplex for longer than usual, his phone in his hand. Taking photos of something. The meter box, probably. Documentation for the company. The fourth time was a Tuesday morning again, exactly 2 weeks after the first visit. I was sitting at my desk, coffee going cold next to my keyboard, when I saw the truck pull up. Same yellow vest, same person. And this time something in my chest tightened a little. I watched him walk to the front door. He raised his phone and took a photograph of the lock. Not the meter. The lock. I told myself it was routine. Maybe they photograph locks for security purposes now. Insurance documentation. Something like that. But I kept watching. He moved to the front window of our living room, the one that faces the street. He angled his phone toward the glass, stepped back, adjusted his position, and took another photo, then another. He was photographing the interior. I could see the angle of his arm, the way he was holding the phone to capture what was visible through the glass. My mouth went dry. He moved to the next window, the one closest to my office. I stood up from my desk, moving back slightly so I wouldn't be directly visible if he looked in. He was maybe 4 feet from the glass now, holding his phone up. The metallic click of the camera shutter was audible even through the window. A real camera app, not a video. Click, click. He was taking multiple shots of my office, of my desk, of the interior layout. I felt my heart rate pick up. I wasn't being rational about this. There was a reasonable explanation. There had to be. He lingered at that window for almost a minute, adjusting his angle, taking more photos. Then he moved on, walking around the side of the duplex, toward the back of the house, toward the basement. I waited a few seconds, then moved quickly through the kitchen and down the basement stairs. The basement is where I keep my equipment storage, my old monitors, some filing cabinets, nothing valuable but still. I approached the window well slowly, not wanting to be seen. Through the small basement window, I could see him crouched in the window well outside, his back to me. He was pressed close to the glass, his face nearly touching it, peering into the darkness of the storage room. His phone was in his hand. He wasn't taking photos anymore. He was just looking, studying the space. His head moved slowly from left to right, taking in everything. He stayed there for almost 5 minutes. When he finally stood and walked away, I waited until I heard the truck engine start before I moved. My hands were shaking slightly as I climbed back upstairs. I stood at my office window and watched him drive away. Then I grabbed my phone and took a photo of his truck's license plate as it disappeared down the street. The utility company's customer service line put me on hold for 8 minutes. When the representative came back, I explained what I'd seen. I told her about the visits, the photographs, the way he was documenting our windows and doors. "Can you provide his employee number?" she asked. I hesitated. It's on his vest, but I didn't get a clear look at it. "Let me check our records for your address," she said. I heard typing. "When was the last time one of our technicians visited your property?" That's what I'm trying to figure out. More typing. According to our system, the last physical visit to your address was 14 months ago. That was when we installed the smart meter. All subsequent readings have been remote. We don't send technicians out for routine checks anymore. The room felt smaller. Are you sure? I asked, completely sure. We have no scheduled visits for your address, and no technician should be on your property. If someone in a utility vest has visited your home multiple times, you should contact the police. After I hung up, I looked out the window again. The truck was gone. I went back outside and examined the vest more carefully in my memory. There was no company logo that I could recall. Just the yellow vest. Just the assumption that it meant something official. That night I couldn't focus on work. I kept checking the locks on the doors and windows. Around 7 o'clock, I went down to the basement to look at the window frame more carefully. There were fresh marks on the wood around the latch, small gouges. Pry marks, they looked recent. The paint was still slightly disturbed, still showing the lighter wood underneath. I called the police non-emergency line and reported it. They said an officer would come by in the morning to take a report. I didn't sleep much. Around 2 in the morning, I heard a vehicle slow down in front of the house. I moved to the window without turning on any lights. It was his truck. The driver's window was down, and I could see a face illuminated by the glow of a phone screen. The person was looking at something on the phone, then looking at our house, then back at the phone. Looking at photos. Photos of our windows, our doors, our interior layout. The truck moved slowly down the street and disappeared around the corner. I waited to see if it would come back. It did about 10 minutes later, moving in the opposite direction. Same slow speed, same face lit by the phone screen. The second time it passed, the driver turned his head and looked directly at our house, at my window. I stepped back, my back against the wall, my heart hammering against my ribs. I didn't see the truck again that night, but I didn't sleep either. I sat in the dark living room with my phone in my hand, the police non-emergency number ready to dial again if I needed it. The officer came the next morning. I showed him the pry marks on the basement window. I told him about the visits, the photographs, the truck passing by at night. He took notes and said they would increase patrols in the area. He suggested I install a security camera. I haven't seen the truck again since that morning. It's been 3 weeks now. The police said they ran the license plate, but it came back to a vehicle that was reported stolen 6 months ago. They're still investigating. I installed 2 security cameras, one pointing at the front of the house, one at the back. I check the footage every morning and every night before bed. So far, nothing unusual. Just the normal traffic of the neighborhood. Just the ordinary emptiness of the street at night. But sometimes, late in the evening, I'll be working at my desk and I'll feel that same tightness in my chest. That feeling of being watched. And I'll look out the window at the dark street, at the empty sidewalk, and I won't see anything. But I'll know that feeling is there for a reason, that it means something. Story number 2, commuter pattern. I take the same bus every morning at 7:15. It's the number 9 downtown route, and it gets me to the medical complex by 7:50. I've been doing this for 4 years. I know the driver's name is Marcus. I know which seats have the broken springs. I know the smell of the bus at that hour. Diesel and old upholstery, and the coffee someone always spills near the back door. 3 days ago, a woman boarded at my stop. She was wearing a cream-colored coat, blonde hair pulled back. She sat 3 rows behind me and got off at the medical complex stop, the same one I use. I didn't think much about it. The hospital system is large. Thousands of people work there. She could have been going anywhere. The main hospital, the clinic, the research wing. I assumed she worked somewhere in the complex like I do. The next morning she was there again. Same stop, same coat, same exit. This time I noticed her perfume. It was floral, something expensive smelling, and it filled the entire section of the bus. My eyes watered a little. I told myself it was just perfume. People wear perfume. It's normal. On the 3rd day, she sat 1 row behind me. The perfume was stronger. I could smell it on the seat fabric after she got off. I remember thinking it was odd that she'd moved closer, but I rationalized it. Maybe her usual seat was taken. Maybe she wanted to be near the door for her stop. People shift around on buses. There's no pattern to it. That was a Friday. Monday morning, I was already on edge. I didn't want to admit it to myself, but I was. I'd thought about that woman over the weekend, more than I should have. I told myself I was being paranoid. She was just someone who happened to take the same bus. Coincidence. She boarded at my stop. This time she sat directly across from me, 2 seats over. She was looking at her phone, and I tried not to stare. The perfume hit me immediately, thick and cloying. I shifted in my seat and looked out the window. Then she spoke. "Do you have the time?" she asked. I glanced at her. She was smiling slightly, looking at me with an expression that seemed too familiar. 7:20, I said. I wasn't wearing a watch. I'd checked my phone a moment before. "Thanks, David," she said. "My name is David. I don't wear a name badge on the bus. I don't wear it anywhere outside the lab." I checked my shirt. Nothing visible. She'd called me by my first name like she knew me. I didn't respond. I looked back out the window. My stop came 5 minutes later, and I got off without looking at her again. But I could feel her watching me. That day, during my lunch break, I went to the hospital employee directory. It's on the internal system. I searched for blonde women in their 30s. There were several. I looked at each one, comparing faces to the memory of her on the bust. None of them matched. I tried different departments: administrative, nursing, lab services, records, billing. I even searched the entire hospital system across all 3 locations. Nothing. I told myself I'd made a mistake. Maybe I'd misremembered what she looked like. Maybe she didn't work here at all. Maybe she was a patient or a visitor. But she boarded the bus again on Tuesday. This time she sat beside me. Not across from me. Beside me. I could smell the perfume before she even sat down. She was holding a coffee cup from the cafe on the ground floor of my apartment building. "I live near the corner of 11th and Hennepin," she said, not looking at me. "Nice neighborhood. 11th and Hennepin is my address. Not just the corner. My building. My apartment is on the 4th floor." I stood up immediately. We were between stops. The bus lurched slightly, and I grabbed the overhead rail to steady myself. I moved toward the back of the bus. I could feel my heart doing something wrong in my chest, not racing exactly, but irregular, like it had forgotten its rhythm. "Have a good day, David," she called after me. I didn't go to work that day. I got off at an earlier stop and walked home instead. I told myself I was being irrational. I told myself there was probably an explanation. Maybe she'd seen my name somewhere. Maybe she'd looked me up. Maybe she worked in the records department and had access to employee information. That would explain how she knew my name and my address. But it didn't explain why she was following me. Wednesday morning, I didn't take the bus. I drove my car, which I almost never do because parking at the medical complex costs money, and the bus is more convenient. I parked in the structure and went straight to my lab. I tried to act normal. I ran samples. I filled out reports. I kept my head down. Around noon, my supervisor, Dr. Reeves, called me into her office. "David, I wanted to ask you about something," she said. "Someone came in yesterday requesting access to employee records." She said she was verifying insurance information for a billing audit. Security flagged it because she wasn't on the list of authorized auditors. My mouth went dry. "What did she look like?" I asked. "Blonde woman, 30s, wearing a cream coat. Security has her on footage in the records room for about 8 minutes. She was photographing files. Not just one file, multiple files, including yours." I didn't go back on the bus. I started taking a different route. The number 4, which goes through the hospital loading docks area. It's longer, but it felt safer somehow. I also submitted a request to have my home address removed from the employee system. The hospital's security office said they'd process it, but these things take time. That was Thursday. This morning, I found a note under my apartment door. It was on cream, colored paper, and it smelled like her perfume. The floral scent was so strong it made my eyes water immediately. The note just said, "See you soon. I've called the police, but they said there's not much they can do yet. She hasn't made an explicit threat. She hasn't touched me." Knowing someone's name and address isn't technically illegal, they said. Following someone on a bus isn't illegal. Requesting access to records, even under false pretenses, is a matter for hospital security to handle, not them. I'm sitting in my apartment now. It's 8 in the evening. I've locked both deadbolts. I've checked that all the windows are secure. I keep telling myself that she's probably just someone unstable, someone who became fixated on me for some reason. I tell myself that the police will eventually do something. I tell myself that this will pass, but I can still smell the perfume. It's faint, but it's there. It's on the note. It's in my apartment now. And I keep thinking about that moment on the bus, when she said my name, when she mentioned my address, when she sat down beside me like we were old friends. I keep thinking about her in the records room, photographing my file. I keep thinking about the note under my door. I keep thinking about her saying, "See you soon." And I don't know what that means, and I don't know what she wants, and I don't know if the police will actually help, and I don't know if changing my bus route or removing my address from the system will matter at all. The apartment is quiet. The city sounds drift up from the street below. I'm listening for footsteps in the hallway. I'm listening for a key in the lock. I'm listening for anything that sounds wrong. I don't know what happens next. Story number 3, fishing spot. I've been coming to this lake for 15 years. It's about 40 minutes north of Rhinelander, down a single lane access road that most people don't know exists. The county map shows it, but you have to know to look. I discovered it by accident when I was still working for the Postal Service, took a wrong turn one afternoon, and found this clearing where the road just stops at the water's edge. Pines all around. The lake is maybe a quarter mile across, shallow on this side, and the fishing is decent. Wally mostly. I come out here every Wednesday afternoon when I can, sometimes Friday too. It's quiet. That's the whole point. 3 weeks ago, I noticed tire tracks in the gravel that weren't mine. Fresh ones. Someone else had been here recently. I remember feeling something then, a small irritation. Like someone had borrowed something without asking. But I didn't think much of it. Probably another fisherman. The trail apps have gotten popular. People discover places they shouldn't find, but they do anyway. I figured that was it. I parked, set up my gear, and tried not to think about it. Last week, the tracks were there again. Different pattern. Heavier vehicle, maybe a truck. I stood in the clearing for a minute, looking at the marks, and I told myself it was fine. Plenty of lake, plenty of spots to fish. I wasn't the only person in Wisconsin who liked to be alone. Today is Wednesday. I got here around 4 in the afternoon. The sun was still high enough, filtering through the pines in that way that makes the air look thick and golden. I parked, grabbed my cooler and rod, and walked down to the water. The tracks were there again. Fresh. Maybe from the last day or two. I didn't look at them for long. I set up about 30 feet from the road, cast out, and settled into the quiet. The water was still. No wind. Just the sound of my line and the occasional bird. I was thinking about nothing in particular, which is why I come here. My wife died 8 years ago. My daughter lives in Minneapolis. I don't have much to do anymore except fish and watch the news and think about things I can't change. Out here, I don't think about anything. At 4:30, I heard the diesel engine. I knew it immediately. That deep, rhythmic sound of a pickup truck working up the access road. I didn't turn around at first. Just kept my line in the water. The engine got louder. I figured someone was coming to fish. Same as me. Probably the person who'd left the tracks. I thought maybe I'd nod. Maybe we'd exchange a few words about the fishing, and they'd set up somewhere else. That's how it usually works. The truck appeared at the far end of the clearing. Dark-colored, newer model, tinted windows. It didn't park next to my truck. It pulled across the road, perpendicular to the exit, and stopped. The engine kept running, idling. I could hear it from where I was standing in the water. I waited. I thought maybe the driver was checking their phone or adjusting their GPS or something. I kept fishing. The engine idled. 5 minutes went by, then 10. The diesel exhaust drifted through the pines, mixing with the smell of the trees and the water. It was a thick, acrid smell. Not unpleasant exactly, but it made the air feel heavier. I reeled in and turned to look at the truck properly. The windows were too dark to see inside. The engine was still running. No one got out. No one waved or acknowledged me. I stood there in the shallow water, holding my rod, and I felt something shift in my chest. A small tightening. I called out, "Hey, you fishing?" The engine idled. No response. I called out again. There's plenty of spots around the lake. Nothing. I stood there for another 20 minutes. The light was starting to change. The sun was lower now, and the shadows under the pines were getting longer. The truck didn't move. The engine didn't shut off. I couldn't see the driver. I couldn't see anything through those windows except my own reflection and the trees behind me. I told myself it was nothing. Someone was lost. Someone was waiting for a phone call. Someone was just sitting in their truck for reasons that had nothing to do with me. I told myself this several times, and I almost believed it. But I also knew that wasn't true. I packed my gear, not slowly, not panicked, just methodically. I put my rod in its case, closed the cooler, and I didn't go back to my truck. Instead, I waded across the creek at the edge of the lake. It was shallow, maybe 2 feet at the deepest point. The water was cold. I kept my boots on and moved quickly, and when I reached the other side, I started walking into the woods. I've hiked these woods before. I know they connect to the highway about 2 miles east. It's not a marked trail, but the forest is open enough that you can move through it. I walked fast. The light was fading quickly now. The pines were tall and thick, and the ground was soft with needles. I didn't look back. It took me almost an hour to reach the highway. My pants were wet to the knee. My heart was going faster than it should have been. I flagged down a passing car, a woman in a sedan, and I asked her to take me back to the access road. She asked if I was okay. I said my truck had broken down and I'd walked out. She didn't ask any more questions. When we got back to the clearing, my truck was alone. The dark pickup was gone. The gravel was empty. The woman asked if I needed anything else, and I said no, thank you, and I got out. I stood there in the fading light, looking at my truck, and I walked around to the front. Under the driver's side wiper blade, there was a piece of paper. Folded once, I unfolded it with my hands shaking. It was a printout, my truck's registration, my full name, my address in Rhinelander, the vehicle identification number, everything. Below that was a satellite image of my house. The image was recent. I could see my truck parked in the driveway, and in the margin, in handwriting, someone had written out a fishing schedule. Wednesday 4 p.m., Friday 3 p.m., next Wednesday 4 p.m. 4 weeks of dates and times, all in the future, all written as if they were certainties. I stood there holding the paper, and I couldn't make myself move. I couldn't make myself think clearly. I got in my truck and I drove home, and I haven't been back to the lake since. I'm sitting in my living room now. It's Wednesday, 4 in the afternoon. I keep looking at the windows. I keep thinking about that diesel engine, that sound of something waiting. I keep thinking about someone sitting in a truck, watching me fish, knowing exactly when I would be there. I don't know what they want. I don't know if they're coming. I don't know if I should call the police, or if that will make things worse. I just know that someone knows where I live. Someone knows my routine. Someone is patient enough to wait 20 minutes after I arrive, every single time. And I'm sitting here, watching the light change, waiting to hear an engine in my driveway.